The last time I was in Cuba, I saw billboards talking about the need for the revolution. And of course, the revolution happened in 1957 or 58. Now we need a new revolution in Cuba. And God's people there, the church, are ready for a time of liberation and freedom to live out a peaceful life and to proclaim Christ in an everyday way. Come and join us in our conversation about what's going on in Cuba today. Very special. Thank you for joining us on this next edition of our Passion Life broadcast. My co-worker, Mark Nicholson, is in Spain today, and we have a special guest with us, Jeannie Pernia, who's also leaving to go to Spain tomorrow. But thank you for taking the time to join us today, Jeannie.
Absolutely, John. Glad to be here.
Yeah. Hey, listen, you are married to a Cuban, and you have been to Cuba. How many times would you say you've been to Cuba?
Well, actually, John, if you figure about maybe 4 times a year, except for that COVID time,
Yeah.
so maybe close to about 20 times.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know a lot about Cuba. You know more about Cuba than anyone else I know right now because you're in Cuba and you're all across the island of Cuba. And for many years, we've been praying for liberty to arrive in the land of Cuba. And right now, and even our broadcast might be a little bit dated because things are happening so very fast right now in Cuba. But I want our audience to share some of the love and passion and hope that we have for that island nation, and particularly the believers across Cuba. So I want to talk today a little bit about the people that you work with in Cuba in particular, because people need to know people. You know, they just can't talk about the nation as a whole. And then secondly, I want to talk a little bit about how there's a kind of a collapse in Cuba that I hope is really a collapse into a new democratic freedom that I hope will bring relief to the average everyday person in Cuba and give the church there a chance to live in a spirit of peace and prosperity in coming months. So that's kind of where I want to go today. Okay, are you ready for that, Jeannie?
I am. Yes, I am, John.
Okay. So you have a couple of people that you are really, really close to. And the first one is Pastor Sandy. Can you just tell us a little bit about Pastor Sandy and what's going on in this picture and why you've come to love and appreciate this brother so much?
Actually, John, we really do love Pastor Sandy because he actually came to us through someone outside of Cuba with is Mr. Jose Gonzalez. And
Uh-huh.
we met him about 2 years after we had started our work in Cuba. And we were
Okay.
really praying for, if you remember, we were praying for that leader that could really expand the 4 questions teaching, and it's
Yeah.
almost like he fit like a glove, it was exactly what we needed, someone who was respected as a church leader,
Yeah.
living in Havana very differently from where we originally got to, and Sandy just grabbed the torch, he learned the 4 questions, and he went at it, and he has
Yeah.
just expanded,
Yeah.
right, our work there.
And for those who may be watching us for the first time, just getting to know this work, our 4 questions is abbreviated, meaning our 4 questions that answer the moral crisis of abortion with the gospel of life. And it's basically a bioethics teaching. Just explain, what does the Bible say about human life and about the shedding of innocent blood and about bringing the good news of the gospel to the guilt of shedding innocent blood and the biblical call to rescue mothers and babies who are being targeted for slaughter. So we just call that the 4 questions. And so when Gina refers to it, it means that Pastor Sandy was an answer to prayer because he just wanted to teach pastors and churches all across Cuba to stand for life according as God has revealed and called us to. So just wanted help everybody know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Tell us more about Sandy.
Sandy is married to just a beautiful lady who just stands right next to him in regards to what he does. And he has
Yeah.
two grown children. One is his daughter, and Rocio actually goes out with him on every trip that he goes out. She's the
Wow.
one who takes the pictures and helps him with all of the logistics. So they're
Okay.
a family of four and just well known and well respected and a man of his word.
So in Cuba, the work of Passion Life goes forward under the name of Passion Vida throughout
Yeah.
Latin America. And then Sandy had some t-shirts made that says Passion Vida Cuba, which is what this picture is. I think one other thing that needs to be said about this guy, he actually has a visa. He was with us a couple weeks ago in Mexico. He pops over to you over in Miami and other places. Uh, this is a guy that could leave Cuba easily, and
Yes.
yet he is devoted to bringing and living out the gospel in Cuba in really, really hard times. And I think that's really admirable because there's so many other leaders that are just seeking to get out of the country, and that's quite understandable. Uh, it takes an enormous amount of dedication and courage to want to stay in that troubled situation when you can get out, and yet he voluntarily stays there.
Yeah, he has been blessed with a 10-year visa to travel all around the world in many
Yeah,
places. And so it's a big help because sometimes it could take weeks or months to even get vitamins or whatever we can get. So we're able to put two duffel bags on him and get the stuff there right away.
beautiful. All right, tell us about this couple here, uh, Jimmy and Anya, and why they're so special, and they're special friends of ours in Cuba.
Well, Anya and Pastor, her husband, Jimmy,
Jimmy? Yeah.
yes, they were the original people that the Lord sent us to when we went to Cuba back in 2017. They
Mm,
were there, and immediately they took the mission. And Dr. Anya was the doctor that worked in a small beach town called Siboney.
mm-hmm.
And she heard when we went to teach the four questions, and as a part of that, she felt that she too needed to get the healing that we call, or
Mm,
the training and the teaching of God's redemptive work, because
mm-hmm.
as a doctor, she had actually prescribed abortions to women, not
Yeah.
knowing clearly what we know today and what she knows today. And from the very beginning, John, she brought three other women with her, and they decided to just step out and go and visit women and counsel women. And I mean, her
Yeah.
story alone is such a testimony to what God is doing throughout Cuba after 9 years that we've been working there with her.
Yeah. Yeah. I think history may not care, may not make it into all the history books, may not even make it into the history of the church. But between you and me and all those watching and the Lord Almighty, we know that this particular woman is the real, genuine pioneer of the pregnancy help movement that has spread all across the island now. There are about 22 pregnancy help clinics that have been established. She has trained many doctors and many nurses in ultrasound and in what we're trying to do here. And she's really a hero
Yes.
in the pro life movement, even though nobody knows her. But we know her.
Yes, we do.
And Jimmy has been a faithful supporter and defender and provider in many ways for her to do her work. So, uh, yeah, I know you love these people very dearly. You've been in their homes many, many times. I remember Jimmy telling me some 5 or 6 years ago how he was just so sick of living under the communism of Cuba all his life, and the lack of opportunity and the the anger and bitterness that just kind of keeps crawling up inside him and his neighbors and friends as they just lack the basic freedom that we have here, and now they lack all the basic essentials.
How many
So
times, John, did we dry his tears? I mean, this is a man that would literally come to tears,
yeah,
hoping and wishing and praying that there would be a change at some moment on the island.
yeah, yeah. I remember 2006 when I was down in Miami helping, meeting you and starting the pregnancy center in Miami. I was kind of new to Miami. I remember one day driving back to my apartment, and cars were running up and down the street, honking their horns with flags, and it had to do with Fidel Castro stepping down, and they thought maybe that was going to be a big change in the country, and it never happened. But now there's another upheaval going on. Okay, so tell us what's going on right now that
Oh
is
my.
both dangerous and kind of exciting.
Well, my husband is a native from Cuba, and he left the island back in 1979. He actually stole a boat because he was a merchant marine. And this has been 70, 70. What? Let's see. No, 68 years that Fidel's whole communism
Yeah.
has been happening. So they have been waiting, right? And it's like on a couple of occasions, like you just shared, we would think, wow, can it really happen? And first it was having him step down. Then he died. Fidel Castro passed away, and then his
Yeah.
brother Raul took over. But for the last 7 days, through blackouts that they've been having over and over, the people have lost the fear, John, and they're
Mm.
grabbing pots and pans and they're coming out, and there's riots going on.
Mm.
Just recently in one of the towns called Moron, which is close to the, I would say, where the tourists go to the different beaches, they
Uh-huh.
stepped out and they went into the government office and they broke in and they torched the building, they pulled out the furniture. It's been all havoc. But
Is that what I'm looking at now with the picture
that's
with the
the
Cuban
picture.
flag?
Yes,
And so
they
this is just a
mhm.
couple days ago.
For the this is day 7. Today is day 7. We are literally glued to our television right now
Mm.
every couple of hours because things are happening that quickly. But,
Okay.
once again, we know that we have a president who wants to do the things the right way, and he's giving these people, like he did with the Venezuelans, he's giving them an opportunity to make decisions to either move out of the way or find a way to work it out. But there's three legal people that worked alongside of him: Maria Elvira Salazar,
Uh-huh.
Marcus Rubio, and Suarez. And the three of them are saying, no, no, no. We don't want any way, we don't want to make any deals. There's no deals going on. You guys
Okay.
need to pick up and move out and allow us to come and bring freedom and get rid of the chaos. And
Mm.
so, I mean, this is going to be worldwide, John. Understand,
Mm.
this
Mm.
island is a beautiful island, and its
Mm.
people are very, very smart, intelligent people that are clearly all around the world. And because they're all around the world, they've got the whole world just on literally pins and needles waiting. When is this going to take place? Now we've got what's going on in Iran, right? And
Yeah.
we definitely want to clear all that up. But I just believe that Trump is going to say, you know what, we need a timeout here and we need to deal with this immediately, because it's not only the Cubans in the island of Cuba, we got the Cubans right here in South Florida, 90 miles away,
Yeah.
that are just, their families are there. So, yeah,
So
this is
I
really
I I
very,
would add that that one of the differences between Iran and Cuba is that Cuba has a long period of history of democracy,
Right.
Iran, I don't think does
Mm.
have nearly as much actual historical experience with democracy. But the Cuban people have been practicing capitalism and business and thriving, and the Cuban islands should be full of middle class and wealthy people just on the tourism alone. Uh, it's an island that's ready to be free and to make the most of it. Tell me what's going on in this picture here. It looks like they're marching down the street.
There's
Did this get? Where did this picture come from?
That's there in Havana. That's
Okay.
the Havana site where um that's where the capital is.
Yeah.
But know that, there's just so in every different providence, almost every night they're coming out and they're rioting and they're making their stance that this is it.
Okay.
They want change.
Yeah. So this is a recent picture, I'm assuming.
Yes, this is within
Okay.
the last 2 days, correct.
Wow. Wow. So they're marching for freedom. All right. Well, let's moving it from the geopolitics and all of that to more of the church. I've got a beautiful picture here again of a church that's pretty full,
Yes.
and people are looks like they're worshiping. Tell us about this picture and how it relates to our conversation today.
It's extremely important to see that. Remember, Cuba's religious backgrounds, a lot of it has to do with a totally different um religious aspect. They were very involved in idolatry and witchcraft and a Yoruba religion. And obviously, that didn't work. I mean,
Mm,
so many of them are looking for the real answers. And
mm.
I believe that this one church is a church that partners with us,
Okay.
and to see that people are coming and they're praying and they're seeking the true Jesus is making an impact. I
Yeah.
think that, we wonder, well, why is this taking so long? Well, guess what? Some of us need to, just go through a little bit more to really reach out, but the change is coming.
So
And
there's something of a spiritual awakening
yes,
across Cuba. Is that what you're saying? In
absolutely.
many cases, we're seeing that there are pockets of great revival here in the States as well. Young people, especially looking for something more meaningful in life, are turning to the gospel. But what you're telling me here is that the churches are pretty full,
And a lot of
and
them,
they're
yeah, a
seeking the
lot.
Lord.
Yeah, and a lot of them are coming in with their babies because we have been rescuing hundreds of
Mm,
babies throughout the island, John.
mm, mm,
What knowing that they can do it, that there's support, and even though there's blackouts, there's no food, there's no gas, there's nothing, but yet
mm,
they are making a choice based on biblical truth that
mm,
we can come together and we can support each other. And the church is becoming the rescue, it's becoming the light in the midst of the darkness. And that's what I'm hearing from these leaders and
mm.
these churches.
Yeah. Now look at this next one here. Everybody on their knees, uh, for the most part. Same church, it looks like.
Yes,
And these pictures were just sent to you,
just
I'm assuming,
recent.
just
Yes.
recently. Okay.
And they're doing 2 and 3 days of praying and fasting. They figure, well, if we don't have any food, well, then let's
Ah,
just go and get on our knees, right? And
yeah.
they're fasting and they're praying. And I join in that prayer that God will
Mm.
answer them as they continue to seek his face.
Well, we're going to take a break, Jeannie, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit more about how God's people, in the midst of great suffering and want, everyday want, are still finding great joy in the Lord and living out an obedient uh, and life saving lives there. So let's take a break and we'll come right back and talk about some of that. Thank you.
The US accounts for only 3% of the abortions that happen in our world each year, leaving 97% of the crisis before us as a world missions challenge. Would you join us in serving where the need is greatest? PassionLife, rescuing the most vulnerable where abortion is most concentrated.
We've received a really overwhelming and wonderful response to this tiny baby fetal model that we've developed here in PassionLife. This fetal model is a medically accurate representation from the 9th week after conception. If you go to our website, we've got a way for you to not only send those tiny babies around the world, but find out a way that you can have some of those tiny babies come to you for your own use as well.
Question that we're talking about today is whether or not Cuba, living for many, many years, what did you say, 60 some years under the oppression of communism, is about to give birth to a new period of economic and political and religious freedom in that country. And we are very much hoping and praying that God would make this happen. And Jeannie, you've been there so many times. You've been all across the island. You've been to the big cities, Havana on one end and Santiago on the other, and you've been to all the little towns in between. I've been with you on a couple of those trips, and I've been humbled, to be honest with you, by the fact that much of the time we were there, we didn't have water, can't flush a toilet, can't take a shower. It's 110 degrees out during the day. Didn't have electricity by half the time that we were there. And then someone was telling me about how they had to go to the hospital and bring their own sutures, and people have to bring them meals at the hospital, otherwise they go hungry. I mean, tell us kind of the survival. What have you been doing, or what are you hearing
Well,
about how people are surviving?
John, you weren't too kosher about me going in December because they were having still issues of mosquitoes. There's like so much different just plagues of just there's filth. There's the streets are not being cleaned out. So these mosquitoes are contaminating. But I had made a promise to a little girl who we were able to help save 7 years ago, and I wanted to be at her birthday party. And so I went and I took the plunge, and sure enough, the day before the birthday party, I was sick. I was not feeling well, and I had to come back home because I was not going to one of those hospitals. I figured if I had to go to the hospital, I may not make it off the island. So it's very real. Um, People are just in need of so much, and so what I did do when I got back, I was able to reach out to a few people that sent prenatal vitamins, antibiotics, some of our partners, and we were able to immediately get duffel bags out. And this is the things that we are getting into Cuba and reaching the churches. So the churches are also extending whatever medication with whatever doctor.
Yeah, I'm going to pull up that picture, Jeannie. Now, okay, so now we're looking at a picture where people are standing around a couple of look like what we would call picnic tables.
Yes.
And
That's
what's going on in this picture here?
that's the backside of the church that we initially went to, John, if you recall. That's
Yeah.
the church in Siboney, and
Okay.
the lady in blue, I believe, is the pastor's wife,
Yeah.
Elisa. But
Yeah.
they have doctors that are volunteering, and they are opening up suitcases of medicines,
Ah.
vitamins, and all the things. So they've made like a little mini clinic right at the church to
Okay.
help the people in the community, and it's open to the community. So this once again invites people to come see what the church is doing, and hopefully
Yeah.
sharing the gospel at the same time.
So this is a church that's both on its knees and doing everything they can to love their neighbors. I just can't tell people enough how much of an honor it is to see people with so little doing so much for the sake of the gospel. This is a beautiful picture, and I know you've been taking medicines in there, and I know that our main work is not medical relief work or bringing in vitamins or food. It's helping the church save the babies. But
Yeah.
sometimes in the middle of a crisis, you have to deal with what you have to deal with. And that seems to me what the church is doing right now.
Yeah.
Tell us about this last picture here. I see a bunch of balloons. I see a bunch of mothers holding babies. What's going on here?
Well, this was just this past weekend. Okay. I guess during the
Okay.
day, because there's lights on, because at night there's no lights. But
Uh-huh.
this is a couple, Pastor Javier and Elisa, his wife. And once every 3 months, they get all of the women that have chosen life for their babies, that have had their babies, and those that are pregnant, and
Yeah.
they have a day of just honoring them. And
Okay.
you'll see, I mean, it's a picture, but they're smiling. So we're still rescuing and we're still helping
Yeah.
bringing these families to the church. And this is actually a center that's open in the church. They have one of their rooms where they do the ultrasounds, where they do the counseling. So they sent us
Okay.
this picture just to share that no matter what, they're still about what they've made the decision to do, which is help save mom and babies.
So I see Pastor Javier in the background there.
Yes.
I see a mom up in the front who obviously is pregnant and
Yeah.
waiting.
Yes.
And you're right. I see a lot of smiles. Now, I'm telling you, it seemed like almost all the pictures we got out of Cuba for years,
Yeah.
we didn't see people smiling.
That's
So the
right.
camera goes up and they would just kind of stare at you.
Yeah.
So this is good to see them smiling. And I think what the point that you're making is that in spite of the absolute turmoil going on right now in day-to-day survival,
Yeah.
they're still faithfully rescuing mothers and babies from abortion.
And this is Bayamo, which is what we'd say maybe west of Siboney.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep,
it's just bringing joy to our hearts.
it is. It's very remarkable. Now, I haven't had a chance yet to explain to everybody about your own personal background, but I want to take some time to do that right now. If you want to read an amazing story, I would encourage you to go to PassionLife.org and download the brief little story of Jeannie's life. It's called Conquered by Grace, and it tells Jeannie's personal story about how the Lord redeemed her out of a life in the abortion business to where she's now giving birth to pregnancy centers all over the world, and particularly here in Cuba. I think you're going to really love reading her story. And if you would like to help the brothers and sisters in Cuba, go there and make a donation and pray for God's people in Cuba. And let's see how God answers our prayers. Thank you. God bless.